Hold on just a minute. I'm finna fix this. I'm finna fix it. Is it better? Better, right? Louder. 100% louder. I'll be right back.
What a week, huh, sports fans? Holy Toledo. Yeah, so Moist Critical's in a big oopsie poopsie situation here. It reminds me of the time in Moonfall when Casey Houseman sacrifices himself and dies of cringe to become the moon. Yeah, so, being serious now, since this has become such a big issue, I've been in a lot of drama recently. I'm in hot water and I'm biting on the fart bubbles that pop up in the bathtub here. It is a lot. So let's start with the most recent one today, my retirement. I didn't know I was retiring. That's news to me. I'm as shocked as all of you are. I had a ton of fun last night playing a game called Clickleding, which is basically like a cuckoldry simulator, but for clicking against like the Lorax in a hotel room. And I just did like an old school gameplay commentary video. I was bubbly, full of jubilation. I posted it today only to learn that I'm just a big old fucking liar. Liar, liar, plants for hire, I suppose. I apparently, and I didn't know this until I posted the video, everyone was under the impression that I was quitting the internet. So I started scratching at the hair on my chinny chin chin, wondering, when the fuck did that happen? Was I sleepwalking? Do I have somnambulism? Is this some kind of like, Fight Club situation? But instead of like Tyler Durden, I have fucking Charles Turden here that's just making wrong announcements. It turns out the patient zero behind all of this was a post Jackson made announcing that I would be leaving the podcasts, which is something I thought about periodically for quite a few months now, mainly because I started to recognize that I was becoming the very thing I'd make fun of with being chronically online. Like, I just was always online, and the podcasts were a big proponent of that, and I just kind of wanted to scale back the amount of time I spend online, and I kept Jackson in the loop the whole time here about where my head was at, and last week I told him, hey man, I think this is going to be where I hang up the jersey, you can put it in the rafters, throw it in the dumpster, but I think I'm just going to be, sailing off into the sunset here and just reducing the amount of stuff I do online. Which he completely understood, so he made the announcement just letting people know that, and then that got spun on Twitter and Reddit as MoistCr1TiKaL's taking an indefinite hiatus and quitting the internet, fundamentally. Don't know when I'll be back. He's done with the internet because of all this controversy. Patooey on his grave. He's gone. When looking at the post, I don't even know where that's coming from. It's literally just talking about the podcast and me just stepping away. Like, it doesn't extend beyond that. I can't even wrap my tiny noodle around how anyone could perceive this as me being done with the internet entirely, but that's the story that they ran with, and that's what most people saw, not the actual post. So everyone thought I was quitting the internet, so I posted that video that I was really happy with because it just felt like an OG old school video that made me happy, and then bang! Just a flood of comments and dislikes all saying shit like, how could you fucking deceive us? I thought you quit, huh? What happened to leaving, huh? I just read this post on Twitter from an account that had a profile pic of titties photoshopped onto Thomas Edison that said you were done, and it had 50,000 likes, so I know it was true, and you're just a fucking liar. I can't even just peacefully walk away from some projects without it being a massive fucking reaction over actual nothing burger information. And trust me, no one has a palate more refined for nothing burgers than me. I have ranted about the stupidest shit of all time, but this was mind-boggling even for me. So to set the record straight, no, I'm not retiring, despite what the experts are telling you. All I did was walk away from a couple of projects. That's really it. Like, that's a pretty normal thing to do, especially when one of them I've been doing for, 8 years. I really didn't think it was that deep, especially not deep enough for how big of a story it's become with all of the wild narratives running around about the true reason that I stopped doing it. So let's get into that drama. I've talked about it on stream, I don't even know how many times at this point, but we'll just talk about all of it in this video here. So, when covering the Ava Tyson situation, I was attacked by a lot of people for not being quick enough. Even though I covered it within the first 6 hours, people were unsatisfied that I hadn't made a video within the first fucking 20 minutes of it dropping. And then when I did finally finish the full video covering all of it, it was another massive problem where now I only did it out of an obligation because people called me out, and then I also got accused of being a transphobe because I didn't use Ava Tyson's preferred pronouns, which were she, her. I didn't know that. I thought just calling Ava Tyson by her name was okay. And I had also heard when I went to the Mr. Beast thing, someone refer to Ava Tyson with they. So I was truly under the impression that that was okay. And for that, I was annihilated by a good chunk of Twitter. And then annihilated by another good chunk of Twitter because
you know, it is what it is. You know, I mean, you know, it is what it is. If you want to get mad and defend someone who has done horrible things and tell me to use their correct grammar or whatever when I'm speaking to them, oh my goodness, like, oh my goodness. I don't know how bad the mic is right now, but ain't no way I'm gonna call him whatever obscenity I can. Obviously, you know, but like, do you expect me to use some form of respect to someone who's done something like this? No, I won't. I won't, and I'll go so far as to, even when I'm reading things like if I read something on police activity or something like that, I'll even go as far as to eliminate the person's name from it entirely, because I don't want to hear their name. I never want someone to speak their name again. That's how I feel about the situation. That's how I feel about things like this, is when I see someone that has done something egregious, something terrible, especially to a child, or you know, just hurting, you know, hurting children and stuff like that. That's probably the worst thing you could do as a person. And I have no respect for that or anyone who wants me to.
Called out Sneeko, who was the main proponent, about me covering for Mr. Beast to keep the collab alive. I wasn't talking about Ava Tyson because I wanted the Mr. Beast collab. And I talked about how...
Now, that being said, you can go as far to say is like, oh, I'm doing this because I don't agree with the gender stuff. Well, I don't. I don't agree with the gender stuff. I think I don't like it. But, you know, I think if everyone is more informed about how everything worked, and like, you know, I get it. I get the whole thing about the pronouns and it's different than the male and the female. I get that. But I think it's confused a lot, and I think a lot of people confuse it with different things, and I think people confuse the gender with different things when they're referring to pronouns. I think they do, and I think if they say he, or she, they, or whatever, I think if that person's a male, that person should tell you, hey, I'm a male, because I think that's wrong. Yeah, because it's basically tricking someone into thinking you're something you're not. I don't like that.
Absurd that statement was, especially given his history with fighting against the age of consent. He's been very vocal about how much he hates the age of consent, and so I talked about that briefly at the end of the video, which then changed the whole narrative for a lot of people, where I never talked about Ava Tyson and only talked about Sneeko. So it was a complete lose-lose, because if I didn't talk about what Sneeko was saying, I would have been called a coward for not addressing it and talking about, like, well, he was going to cover for Mr. Beast until Sneeko called him out. So, like, if I didn't do it, I would have been attacked. I did do it, still got attacked. It really was unwinnable. But from that spawned a conversation where I talked to Sneeko directly, because he was very upset that I was talking about how him rallying against the age of consent is pedophile arguments, like defending pedophilia. As I've said since the very beginning of this channel, I'm always willing to engage with people I disagree with, and I thought that maybe there was a chance I misunderstood what he was trying to say, even though it's still abhorrent. I thought, okay, maybe he's not actually trying to defend pedophilia. He's like some kind of pseudo-intellectual debate bro who's trying to say something else. So I was willing to hear him out on it, and I talked to him in DMs, and he said he doesn't believe in the age of consent. He believes in the age of marriage, can't assign a number to it, but said that when someone can legally drive, they should be able to marry at the same time, which is literally like a 15 or 16-year-old, because you get your permit at 15, your license at 16, and both are way too young to be marrying. That shit is completely unacceptable. It is downright disgusting. He then said that he was happy to discuss it in a call, which I said I was willing to hear him out on, and he said that he would do it later because he was outside doing an IRL stream in Turkey. So I was willing to hear him out because, again, if this is some kind of crazy misunderstanding, I'd like to know that, because it'd be really fucking scary for someone in his position with his level of influence to be actually advocating.
Everyone kind of knew. Everyone already knew, right? Like, he done the Cuties thing. He was a cutie. He liked the Cuties movie. Or what? I'm not gonna say that name anymore. It's disgusting. I watched a video on it. I didn't watch the movie itself. I watched a video on it. And the clips I seen of the movie were abhorrent. They were fucking abhorrent.
For adults marrying and fucking children. That's a huge problem. That's a big fucking problem. So if there was something that he was like trying to say but failing to do so, I was willing to at least hear it. And this is where the infamous debate came from. The debate that people are calling the debate of the century. I'm kidding, not a single soul on the planet said that. It's actually one of the most dogshit debates I think human beings have ever had. He eventually called me on Discord. I was under the impression this was just him and I talking. I had no idea this was going to be a debate. I thought he was going to try and explain himself like, hey, no, this isn't actually what I meant. This is what I'm trying to say. I thought this was a conversation between him and I.
That's the debate. That's the debate.
Not this kind of debate show that he was putting on for his audience. There is nothing in our DMs that indicated that's where it was going. When I joined the call, he asked if I was going to record it, to which I said, I can if he wants me to, but I was also down to just talk. So I thought maybe he wanted it as a recording to like explain to people like, no, he's not actually a pedophile defender or advocating for that kind of thing. So I thought that is why he asked. I didn't know it was because it was being streamed. Especially because one of his last DMs was about how he's doing an outside IRL stream and he would call me after. To me that says when he's done streaming, that's when we'll talk, not as a...
Wait. You didn't know that he was recording? Well, that doesn't even matter. I don't think that matters. What about the situation? Grants that. What grants that? Does that matter?
Oh, he's not actually a pedophile defender or advocating for that kind of thing. So I thought that is why he asked. I didn't know it was because it was being streamed. Especially because one of his last DMs was about how he's doing an outside...
I understand that. Like, yeah, if someone's doing something, you would want to know beforehand, hey, what are you doing, right? Like, I understand that. But also it was a debate, and it was Sneeko, and you are MoistCr1TiKaL. I mean, you would think that there would be some kind of record button or something.
Side IRL stream, and he would call me after. To me that says when he's done streaming, that's when we'll talk, not as a part of his stream. I didn't know this was a debate nor a stream until about an hour and 40 into it, roughly. Didn't know. I said, not this.
You know it's a debate or a
well, it is downright
debate? Yeah, I mean, it kind of sounds like they're going off on a debate here. I mean, if Sneeko really believes in his ideas and Charlie really believes in his ideas, and now they're going to sit down and talk about it, that would be a form of debate, yes, right? Right?
Disgusting. He then said that he was doing going to record it, to which I said about how he's doing an outside IRL stream and he would call me after. To me that says when he's done streaming, that's when we'll talk, not as a part of his stream. I didn't know this was a debate nor a stream until about an hour and 40 into it, roughly somewhere in that ballpark. I am not a debater. I've never claimed to be one. I never want to be a debater. I've always said that I believe conversations are the most productive because debates always devolve into what side can score the most points by explaining their thought process, even if the position is wrong. Whereas a conversation is a very different thing to me.
Okay.
So I didn't even know that's what this
True.
was. So
True, but also, what is the debate? Seriously, what is it? I don't know. Right? A formal discussion on a popular topic, on a particular topic, in a public meeting or legislative assembly, in which opposing arguments are put forward. Okay, well, that's kind of, argue about a subject. Now, an argument is. I really forgot what an argument was, I'm not going to lie. Like, I can't really give you the definition. But an argument is a series of sentences, statements, or propositions, some of which are called premises, and one is the conclusion. The purpose of an argument is to give reasons for one's conclusion via justification, explanation, and or persuasion. Arguments are intended to determine or show the degree of truth or acceptability of another statement called a conclusion. The process of crafting or delivering arguments or argumentation can be studied from three main perspectives: the logical, the dialectical, and the rhetorical perspective. Okay, so now here you could explain. Charlie is arguing from the logical perspective here with in the logistics of law and what is already put here. Now, I don't know what these other, rhetorical. I think he would be doing this one. Sneeko would be doing the dialectical. Also known as dialectical, refers to dialogue between people holding different points of view about a subject to arrive at the truth through reason, argumentation. I don't think Sneeko's arguing on a dialectical. I don't think he wants to reach a truth or a understanding. I think some things you can bring up to not learn, and some things you can just bring up to be right. That can happen. You can argue with someone not to come to a conclusion, and just to argue. That happens all the time. And the rhetorical perspective. Rhetoric is art of persuasion. It is one of the three ancient arts of discourse. Along with grammar and logic, dialectic is an academic discipline within the humanities. Rhetoric aims to study the techniques that speakers or writers use to inform, persuade, and motivate their audiences. Okay, so he's arguing from that, I guess. Rhetorical. Logical and rhetorical. Was this done in a formal manner? Was this debate done in a formal manner? Are all debates done in a formal manner? Are most of them that you see on TV, that you see on broadcast, that you see, are they done in a formal manner? And what is like the correct
obviously, I was unprepared for a fucking debate. So I entered into the Thunderdome and we started talking. I made it clear that I found his statements on the age of consent and children marrying adults being fucking hideous. Absolutely revolting. And then he started arguing about, well, what is a child? We must define a child, it's not actually being under 18, it's all a bunch of hooey. And I really think if you have to start arguing about...
Let's define a child. We can define a child, actually, because we know, we kind of know when the human brain fully develops, right? Like when it fully molds and casts, right? That's around 25. That's around 25.
About, well, what technically is a child? You're already way too far gone. Like, that is so fucking weird. And in no uncertain terms, multiple times throughout the debate, Sneeko says that he is okay with people that are aged 12, 13, 14, 15, 16 marrying adults
So you
that
go
are
back from
18
there.
or older.
There are
We're talking globally. Let's just talk globally. Like, do you think it is okay for, and I'm not talking about just you specifically anymore, anyone. Do you think it's okay for anyone in their 20s, an adult, to marry a 15 or 16-year-old?
a 21-year-old, if there was a marriage where the father consented and the daughter consented, and it was both good on both families and they wanted to do it, why am I going to get involved? Why should we get the government involved?
Even get back a little bit. Do you think there's not a problem with a child being with an adult?
Okay. We haven't even agreed upon what what a child and an adult is. You keep saying that it's
If you think, oh man, this is wrong. This is 100% wrong.
Under 18.
that's
child.
and I'm
Over 18
telling
is
you,
adult.
that's not even the definition of the word.
What is the number?
I just
It
told-
needs to be a number, or else you can do the same thing.
I just told you there's not a number.
You didn't even grow up
Do you,
there.
but do you see why that's a problem?
No.
If there's no defined, so why can't a 12-year-old marry an 18-year-old?
Because most 12-year-olds haven't gone through puberty yet. And most 12-year-olds...
What if, as you just said, it changes? What if a 12-year-old went through puberty early, the parents consent,
up with
the
these
18-year-old
laws,
and the parents
right?
consent?
You didn't
Can they do
like-
it?
Most likely that's not going to happen. You know why? Because Islamically, if
We're
there's-
not talking most likely. Just say it.
if the
Why?
families have consented, the kid is mature, the kid is ready, why should I
At
stop it?
12 years old. At 12 years old.
If the kid if the kid is physically mature, the parents consent, both parties are
A
happy.
12-year-old being physically mature.
If that's the only line that actually makes sense.
Again, I don't think a 14-year-old can ever be physically mature.
Even though
Are you thinking about it?
even though puberty
Hold on.
actually defines
Are you
that. It's
thinking
fine.
about it?
I don't. Nope. I don't believe so.
Is he like-
I was 14 once. I actually had a mustache when I was 14. Would you have looked at me and said I was physically mature enough to get married?
If you were physically mature, if you were
Look at him. He's sitting there thinking about it. He's like, damn, that's crazy.
even though they literally
crazy.
can. Even though puberty actually defines that. It's fine.
I don't. Nope. I don't believe so. I was 14 once. I actually had a mustache when I was 14. Would you have looked at me and said I was physically mature enough to get married?
If you were physically mature, if you were mature, yes, I would. Okay.
Really?
If
when I
you're-
was 14.
Yeah. If you were 14 and you were ready to go and you met another 14-year-old, yes, I would.
No. We're talking adults. You keep going back to
That is adult.
I met.
I told you my definition. I told you the
14-year-old
definition.
adult.
The definition.
Okay.
If you went through puberty, you're an adult. That's the definition of adult. So yes, if you're an adult and you had a mustache, you're ready to get married, fine. Okay.
Unironically saying a 14-year-old adult, I think, would make most sensible people want to puke. There's so many instances of this, and a lot of the conversation was spent with...
There's no way he holds those like beliefs. There's no way he. There's no way he holds those beliefs, man.
with him talking about like overseas age of consent, like talking about how Japan's age of consent was 13 for the longest time, this and that. But the whole thing was like pulling teeth, and it was fucking painful. And I think it's extremely alarming perspective to have. Unironically calling a 14-year-old and 12-year-old mature enough for a marriage, those are middle schoolers. Like, holy shit. I think that is extremely concerning to be advocating for something like that. Like, would Sneeko be okay if his best friend ended up marrying a 14-year-old? Certainly shouldn't be. No one should be okay with something like that. Like, that's fucking terrible. That is actually terrible. But now, since I wasn't, like, holding him to this topic or making sure it stayed on the topic I thought we were talking about, it went all over the place with a ton of different things. But the big one, and this is what most people have focused on, which was my response to his question about kids transitioning. And the way he would pose that question would be by asking if I thought it was okay if kids who want to switch their gender go to the doctor and get their dick cut off. Is it okay if a 9-year-old goes to a doctor and gets their cock cut off right then and there? And when posed with that question, I replied with yes. And I've talked about this on stream many, many times now, and I'll talk about it again here. I thought he was talking in hyperbole. I thought he was just exaggerating, being over the top, talking about the entire subject of transitioning. I had no idea that any living, breathing human being actually thought that that's how transitioning works, where you just go and
What is hyperbole? Hyperbole is the extreme exaggeration of something, of something, right? How is that hyperbole? He stated the question. There was no hyperbole in the question. Like a hyperbole would be as if I said, "Man, I could eat 100 horses right now. I could eat 100 horses." That would be hyperbole. A human can't eat 100 horses. As if saying a 9-year-old getting their dick chopped off, is that okay to you? Is saying that's a hyperbole? I feel like is just uneducated about what that is. I don't know. Like, and I do it also too. Like, I can misunderstand when someone's using hyperbole or whatever, but not in this context, not in this situation. Yeah, not in this context. Maybe, hopefully not.
To a doctor saying, I feel like switching genders, and they lay you down on the operating table and just snip your whole fucking meat off. I didn't know that that's what he actually believed. I didn't know he was speaking literally. I thought he was just referring to the entire process of transitioning and just using this over-the-top statement to encapsulate all of it. Because you literally cannot get that surgery unless you are 18.
Is that true? I haven't done any type of research. My problem is with HRT medication or whatever they use, like HRT or whatever, with children who are going through puberty. These are conditions of their life, feelings of their body that they'll never get back. They'll never get back if they take this if they take something that limits how they grow and how they move through life afterwards. If it's something that's going to do that, I cannot be okay with it. I cannot be okay with it if it is going to change you developmentally and as a person. Frankly, as a person, it will change that person. And that's just the truth, man. Maybe there hasn't been a whole lot of research done about this or whatever, right? But I'll tell you right now, before the research is done, I'll tell you that if these kids take this medication or whatever they're using, there is going to be developmental problems in their head, like with the way everything works, right? Like they may be more prone to mental illness, things like that. And I'm saying this for children, these children who are taking it, because their brain hasn't fully developed yet. You got to understand what kind of pressure that's putting on their brain and on everything else, on their growing, whatever, right? I mean growing like with fucking legs and your arms. Like I'm not, in your mind. Really, that's the most important thing. I mean, what is that going to affect? And I think that's what it is. I can't be okay with that.
Yeah, like you actually have to go out of your way to be that stupid on the topic than you would just spending a couple of seconds looking it up. There are very rare cases where someone under 18 has had that surgery performed. That's not common. So I really didn't think that someone could be so dumb on the topic. I thought he was just speaking in hyperbole, which is my mistake. I should have been more clear instead of making an assumption.
Here's the thing, a lot of people aren't educated on the topic, me included. A lot of people aren't. It's not a very majorative thing that people want to look up and people really want to look into, to tell you the truth. But, common sense law comes into effect somewhere.
Assumption that he was talking about something nuanced in an over-the-top way. I haven't hid this take, and it's not a new take from me. I've talked about this a couple times throughout the years on stream. I have no complaints if a kid gets interested in transitioning and starts talking to their family about it. So their parents start talking to doctors, the kid starts talking to doctors and therapists and all of this, because the process of transitioning is one that takes place over the course of many years. It's not something that just happens like that. And I'm also not afraid to admit that I am not the most educated when it comes to transitioning. I am not someone that has a ton of knowledge about the subject to be speaking on it in a really in-depth manner. But even I know these very surface level things that everyone has easy access to understand. It is a long process. And I have no problems at all if a kid gets interested in that process and starts going through that process with proper care. And then when they reach the age where they can consider that surgery and decide they want to do it, then that's all power to them. That's entirely up to them. They have reached that age. They can now do that surgery if they want to. That is not a surgery that's being offered to like a 9-year-old who just says, I feel like changing genders today. It's just not how it works. And I didn't think that that's what was actually being discussed because it's...
I think people are still going to be upset with the situation, and people still aren't going to like this take. Not saying that, no, like this guy's terrible or whatever. We can't have this guy or whatever, right? Like, or I can't watch this guy or whatever. That, you know, I don't believe that. I think you know, you can have takes that other people feel are wrong, and you know, still be someone on the internet. 100%. That's how it works. That's how it works. You're going to hear things that you don't agree with and things you don't like. That doesn't mean that you can, like, boycott this guy and, you know, whatever. And, you know, I've heard this a lot. I don't think he took the dub. I think we were both L's handed out that night. I'm pretty sure. Believe it or not. I'm pretty sure both of them went home with an L. You know, one was talking about fucking kids, and the other was talking about them kids never being able to fuck or whatever. But it's crazy that this was wow, it was just
so fucking silly.
crazy.
Now, I'm sure there's some really fringe cases you can point to where that kind of thing did happen, but it's not...
Honestly, here's the thing I think, right? And I think I should learn about it and figure out, because when these people have transitions, right? And I've thought about it before, like as a joke or whatever, right? Like I was like, you know, I thought of it as a joke, but like when people transition, do they still have feeling where they can transition at? Man, that is a terrible thing to think about. I know, but wow, do they have feeling? Do they have feeling? I want to know that, because that seems scary. That seems real bad. That seems terrible. I'm getting sick right now.
Common. Thus, I
Let's
didn't
play the
think
video.
that's what was being referred to in the conversation. And it is, again, my mistake for not recognizing that at that moment it was being spoken about literally. So all that shit that people keep dogpiling and spouting about me about how I want all kids to go out there and get their genitals chopped off is just fucked up. Like, it's so ridiculous. I recognize I did a horrible job of arguing in this debate, which isn't surprising considering I don't debate. This is not something that's in my skill set, which of course led to some embarrassingly dog shit arguments. Like the one I've seen people reference a couple times is when I briefly mentioned sports in this topic. It was a stupid point to try and make. I was getting hit by like some rebound psychic damage listening to some of the drivel brain rot that Sneeko was spouting about the age of consent. And I don't know why I thought this was like an argument to try and make, but I brought up sports in this subject and I was going to try and elaborate on it, but didn't at all. What I was going to try and say is that when a kid gets interested in a sport, they'll talk to their parents about it, they'll research the sport, you know, go through the process of learning about it. And when it comes to transitioning, it's still a process where you talk to your family about it, you learn about it. Like, it wasn't a point where I was trying to say, well, changing genders is a lot like picking between baseball and soccer. Like, that's not what I was trying to get at, but because I didn't elaborate on it and it really wasn't a good argument to try and make in the first place, that's one people have harped on a lot. And I get it. Like I said, I am not a debater. Like, I didn't go in here expecting a debate. So I had nothing prepared here for this inundation of outrageous questions and tangents. Like, there was a point where Sneeko was trying to get me to say white power. Like, the whole thing was a fucking mess. It was, without a doubt, probably the worst debate that video has ever been cursed with.
Why did you just say it? Say it for fun.
And I really
fun.
regret not doing a better job here. It's not something
Have
I
a
should have
little
even done in the first place.
Have a
I
little
just have a
fun.
tendency
It's-
to really
it's
hope for
just
the
a
best out of people.
conversation.
And I was really hoping that I and most people were wrong about Sneako's perspective on the age of consent. However, unfortunately, it doesn't appear to be the case. He was very adamant about this position, and I did a terrible job in arguing with him, and I did a terrible job of articulating my beliefs. I am supportive of the LGBTQ+, and I have been, and that's not something I've been shy about. I just wish I did a better job of expressing that. To be open and honest here, and I've talked about this a lot, I've always treated my channel kind of like a diary for myself, which is why I just talk about so much different nonsense and so many things that I know a lot of people don't give a fuck about, but some of it's fun for me to talk about, or some of it's just things I care about. So being totally honest, I used to treat the internet as an escape from my dog shit real life. Truly unhappy, really.
Alright, so is this like the emotional part? Alright, you took the L. Bad argument. Very, very, very bad conversation, if that's what. But, alright, let's see about
hated
this.
most of everything about myself, and the internet was my escape from it. But now it's really become that real life is the escapism for me now. Like, I love posting and creating things, but I don't like interacting with the internet around me anymore. And it's something that I started to realize a couple months ago, and I've talked about it on stream a little bit, how because I've covered so many like drama stories and everything, it's pretty much all that I ever get told about when I'm streaming, and it's become such a massive headache, and it's just constant negativity that I'm fully flooded with, like at all hours. Like I am in like this human centipede of eating someone's ass while having my ass eaten with even more things that I'm being demanded to like talk about, where everything just feels like a lose-lose, and it has been for like the last 6 or 8 months. I feel.
I mean, hey. Don't threaten me with a good time. Hey, that's
Feel where if I talk about something, it's a problem. Even if something is cut and dry, as like Cody Ko having sex with a 17-year-old being bad, I caught a lot of shit for that too. I'm sure a lot of people probably didn't see that, but man, the amount of emails I got and a lot of the things I was seeing, even something as cut and dry as that was an issue when I talked about it. And then if I don't talk about something, or if I don't talk about something fast enough in the time that some people think is appropriate, I'm then accused of covering up for something for an ulterior evil motive. So it just really feels like a rock and a hard place where
whoa. Hey, what if you just don't want to cover something though? What if, hey, I do that. Hey, I do that. Don't.
It's just going to be a massive flood of negativity. And a huge critique of me that I've see that, but man, the amount of emails I got and a lot of the things I was seeing, even something as cut and dry as that was an issue when I talked about it. And then if I don't talk about something, or if I don't talk about something fast enough in the time that some people think is appropriate, I'm then accused of covering up for something for an ulterior evil motive. So it just really feels like a
Nah, who believes that? Anyone believe that? For real? Someone believes that? Like, oh, if I don't talk about this, then damn. But hey, look at this. Watch. 2,000 other people talked about it also. So maybe you could, like, I'm just saying, like, maybe you could watch them for a minute. You could come back or whatever. But, like, you could watch them go over it. And maybe they have a different opinion than me. Maybe they have a different look at it. And maybe you should take that into account. Right? Maybe you shouldn't just lean on someone's facts or transcription of something, and you should look at other people's opinion on it too, and feel what they have to say about it, what they think.
A rock and a hard place where, regardless, it's just going to be a massive flood of negativity. And a huge critique of me that I've always seen is Charlie's a fence sitter. He's just a fucking fence-sitting, enlightened, centrist cuck, this and that. And I've always said for the entire time I've been on the internet, I'm not special. I'm literally just a normal guy who got very lucky. I just sit here, joke about shit, talk about my opinion on things and nothing else. I don't have a unique perspective on things. I don't have deep insight into the vicissitudes of certain things. I am literally just a guy who yaps, has some fun, talks about shit, does some wacky stuff as well, and that's it. It's just not that deep. But because everything is so inflammatory and charged online, it's being perceived in the last, I'd say like the last 2 years, it's really popped off as me making deliberate attempts to appease both sides and play right down the middle to soak up as much as possible. Like it's all this like nefarious scheme where I'm doing this with my hands. And I just don't understand how it's become so incendiary where that's apparently like a really bad thing now. My opinion is not special, and my opinion isn't one that's pandering to any sides or catering to anything. It's literally just whatever's up here. I sit down for like 30 to 45 minutes on like a topic or like a video that I'm joking around about, and I talk about it. I am legitimately just an average, well, below average height guy who's about to turn 30. I'm not just spitting hot takes out the wazoo here. I'm just being myself. That's all this channel ever has been. And now it's become super controversial to do that if it's not like, you know, picking sides on everything, it seems. And it's very frustrating.
Nah,
For the longest time, it was just me having fun.
Maybe it is.
And for the most part, it
Maybe
still
it is
is.
for-
But I've started...
Maybe it is for when you get to this size or whatever. Maybe, obviously, not everyone agrees with you, and you're gonna have I don't know. Is that a booger? Man, I don't know. I don't feel like it's a like. Yeah, you're gonna have people disagree with you. Fuck it. Let it. Fuck it. Who cares? Who cares, dog? Who the fuck cares, doggy? No. Yeah, you got people disagreeing with you. Okay. Okay. Can we get some people who are agreeing with them? Yeah, we can. We got those too. Okay, well. I don't know.
to recognize over the last few months that some of the things I do just really aren't fun for me to do, and I've been doing them out of obligation. Mainly internet drama. When I initially started covering drama so many years ago now, it was fun because it wasn't as serious. Like, the stories were a lot, more quirky. It was easy to get invested because it was kind of just like a soap opera, like a really dumb soap opera. But recently it's been much more serious, and I feel the need to talk about these things because a lot of them are extremely serious with very important topics to discuss. But it has become draining. As much as I never wanted to admit it, I've started to recognize that my mood is immediately impacted by whatever I read on Twitter in the morning. If that's some horrible stuff about a creator or what have you, it immediately affects my entire day and my whole outlook on the day. Now, I
post something, you just swipe that shit out. How do you swipe it out? What do I do? How do other people do it? I do the. Do they have it like that to where you side swipe it now? I don't know. I have an iPhone 7. What was I saying? Twitter. Gotta get off Twitter. You gotta post something, get off that shit, man. You can't stay on it, especially not with your size or whatever. You can't just sit there and read tweets all day. You're gonna go fucking insane, man. You're gonna go insane. You can't do that.
Call the wambulance, get some French fries, just fucking whining about having to talk about drama. What a stupid problem to be upset about. But I'm just trying to explain that it hasn't been as fun recently. It hasn't. And the main thing, if you've been around the channel for a while, is I've always wanted this to be fun and never feel like a job. And as hard as it is for me to admit this, a lot of this kind of stuff, it has just started to feel like less fun and more of, well, gotta do this because I'm expected to. Like, anytime I go live, most of chat is just telling me about the latest in whatever's happening in the creator space or some other extremely negative thing going on. And it's like, okay, well, I'm going to have to learn all about that once I turn stream off. So then I spent a few hours learning about these things, and it's all just really upsetting stuff. Like, it's not happy. It's all very sad, bad stuff. And it's been making me not happy. So I definitely think I'll be slowing down on covering internet-related drama or, like, drama in general. I'll still talk about, like, really wacky stories and shit like that. But I definitely think I'm going to be pumping the brakes on, like, the kind of drama I have been covering recently. And instead, I'm going to go back to focusing on the content that I'm most happy with. Like, if you ask me what content I'm most proud of throughout my entire time on this platform for the last, like, 17, 18 years, none of it would be drama coverage. It'd be things like Skynut. It'd be things like shooting a potato at a tennis racket to see if you can make french fries in midair by frying them in hot oil. It's shit like that. And I think I'm going to go back to that kind of stuff as opposed to the direction that I have been going recently. So, yeah, this was a lot to go over here, but I hope this has cleared everything up. And, yeah, that's really about it. So, yeah.
All right, cool stuff.
Everything you want.